I was singing in a revival down in Dallas. I'd been introduced as a guest when this old gray-haired man back from the corner said, "Could you play me a tune to my request? Won't you play me a song about heaven? My wife is gone, she's left me all alone. Won't you sing me a song about heaven? I'm so homesick for that land I've never seen." As the choir started playing, I closely watched him, but I couldn't even try to sing along, for my eyes followed the man back to the corner, where he stood there, stared right up into heaven, all alone. And as he left this old world for one so much the better, I still recall the final words that man had said. Won't you sing to me a song about heaven? My wife is gone, she's left me all alone. Won't you sing to me a song about heaven? I'm so homesick for that land I've never seen. Lord, I'm so homesick for that land I've never seen. When will we stroll the streets of a world that's trouble-free? Try on a brand new robe, live without growing old, meet friends and family, find them waiting anxiously, reach out and touch their hand as we tour the promised land. We'll do it all in the morning. We'll sit down by the riverside, rest beneath the tree of life. When the night is gone, keep holding on with all your might. Weeping's only for the night. We'll take our long-awaited flight when morning comes. Then will we live without all the pain we're feeling now. We'll reach a place where our sorrow shall end, and endless joy begins. Slip through the veil that hides heaven's plans from all human eyes. Rejoice to finally see why the tears were meant to be. We'll do it all in the morning. We'll sit down by the riverside. We'll rest beneath the tree of life when the night is gone. Keep holding on with all your might. Weeping's only for the night. We'll rest beneath the tree of life when morning comes. Could that be my morning light, piercing through the darkest night? Will rest beneath the tree of life when the morning comes. Lately I've been thinking of a place where comes no night, and there is no, where everyone rejoices, and there is no need to fight, where the mind will never grow weary, and the heart will never break. It's called heaven, and I can hardly wait, for this could be my last hill I'll have to climb. Trouble through a lonesome valley one last time. There's no need for me to rest, for this could be my final test. I've got to press on, for my new home is just inside. Sometimes I get so homesick, living in this world of wrong. By the signs of things surrounding me, it won't be very long till the Master turns to the Father and receives His word to ascend. And it's closer now than it's ever been. For this could be the last hill I'll have to climb. Trouble through a lonesome valley one last time. There's no need for me to rest, for this could be my final test. I've got to press on, for my new home is just inside. I've got to press on, for my new home is just inside. A little while ago, during our message, I told you I had an old manuscript of what heaven means to me, and let's see. Now I have everything that the Cheek Sisters had, and this is a copy that Mom and Susie and them wrote on typewriter, the songs for that. That's the first one. And here is what heaven means to me. You could tell the paper is from the 1970s. Look how old this paper is. And it's still in usage today. I still have it, is what I mean. The last song there I sung was a song that a holiness group had out about 30 years ago. And it was a good song. So we went over there to listen to them sing. I forgot now the group. It's been, like I said, 30 years or so ago. It's a long time. If you have your Bibles, let's talk about the devoted life. The devoted life. John chapter 11, verse 16. We'll start there. Talking about doubting Thomas. And the record Thomas left for us of him, his testimony. Now said Thomas, which is called Didymus, unto his fellow disciples, let us also go, that we might die with him. Now, in the 11th chapter here, you have to understand something about that chapter. This is where Lazarus was rose from the dead by Jesus. Jesus had heard in the first part of the chapter that Lazarus, whom he loved, had taken ill, and he was sick unto death. And he sat around and sat around. He didn't just rise up and go and heal people like he did. This time he sat down and let him die. And then he talked it over to his disciples, and the disciples said, he's dead. Well, no, he's not dead. He's asleep. He's just sleeping. He said, well, if he's sleeping, let's go wake him up. He said, no, you don't understand, guys. He is dead in your terms. He's dead in your terms. Here is the thing that Jesus was trying to get people to see in heaven. Death has no dominion to the saints of God in heaven. In other words, death does not exist in heaven. If people were to do this, go to sleep in heaven, they're sleeping. They're not dead. To Jesus, there was no difference between death and sleeping, because he could resurrect him, whoever he wished, from the dead. And he went and he proved his power. The reason why he proved his power to them was because he knew that in 6 days he himself would suffer death at the hands of death, and that he had to conquer death, hell, and the grave. How well can you put before people that you're going to conquer death, hell, and the grave, and prove your point as what Jesus did, raising Lazarus from the dead? He proved his point that he had victory over death. Death has no dominion over Jesus at all. Jesus is the Prince of Life. Now, the Prince of Peace, he is the Prince of Life. He's been alive even before time began. Let's just say, even before time itself began, he was alive. We go from there. He is like God. There is, in this respect, there's no beginning to him. There's no ending to him. He's just all the way through. Okay? And Thomas here, being the man of faith that he is, said, okay, let's go die like Lazarus. Let's all get up and just go and let's all die. Boy, what a kind of faith that is. You know. In Matthew chapter 10, verses 1 through 4, it states here that Thomas was numbered among the disciples. Now listen closely, like to verse 1 here. And when he, Jesus, had called unto him his 12 disciples, he gave them power against unclean spirits, and to cast them out, and to heal all manner of sicknesses and all manner of diseases. Now let's stop right there. Who gave these 12 men this authority? It was Jesus. How could Jesus give these 12 men such authority? Because he had the authority from his Father. So now he passed this on to these. Now notice again, they had power to cast out unclean spirits. Now, I'll stop right here just to make a point. This wasn't just for a small part of time. You could say that this was from that point on since he walked with them. And even after he walked with them, when he ascended to glory, he gave them this power. Notice that nowhere that we can ever find that he took this power back from them. So when you look at all the things that they went through within the next 3 years, you could see that they always had the power, but they refused to use it. They never used it until after, or in the book of Acts, when they had to, because Jesus wasn't there. Now they had power, first of all, against unclean spirits. Now, that word against, they could stop the unclean spirits' works from what they were doing and to cast them out. Not only could they stop their works, but they also could cast them out of people. And all manner of sicknesses and all manner of diseases. All manner of sicknesses. It doesn't matter what kind of sickness they had. I mean, colds, flus, viruses, whatever. They had the power to cast them out. And all manner of diseases. The big diseases, cancer or Alzheimer's or whatever else, they had power to cast this out and to use this power. Now, Jesus don't call you and just leave you empty-handed. He gives you the things that is needed. Now, the names of the 12 apostles are these. The first, Simon, which is called Peter, and Andrew his brother, James the son of Zebedee and John his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas, and Matthew the publican or tax collector, James the son of Alphaeus, and Lebinus, whose surname was Thaddeus, Simon the Canaanite, and Judas Iscariot, to whom also he also betrayed him. So here's the people set up here on this. Now, go back to John chapter 11, verse 16, which we opened up that verse, and it said that he was devoted to Christ. Okay, Jesus wants to go now. Let's all go. Let's all go, and Lazarus dead, or let's see what happens. Let's go. Hey, Lazarus dead, we'll die too, or whatever. Let's just follow Jesus. I want to make this clear. When Jesus calls us, he calls us unto himself. He calls us to follow him. Not a denomination, not a certain person other than himself. He calls us strictly to follow after him and him alone. Whether you agree with me or disagree, that's between you and God. But that's when God calls us, he calls us to himself. John chapter 14, starting at verse 1. Let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. And whither I go ye know, and the way ye know. Thomas said unto him, Lord, we know not whither thou goest, and how can we know the way? And notice it. Here, Thomas breaks in and he's confused. He's just filled. He doesn't really know. And he says, we don't know. We have no idea where you're going. How do we know the way? And Jesus said unto him, I am the way, the truth, the life, and the life. No man cometh to the Father but by me. Now, you can read it like this if you want to. I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. You could read it that way. No man cometh to the Father but by me. I had one man come up to me, and he was very distraught and everything. I tried my best working with him, but there are people that just cannot comprehend. He came up to me about the final time. He said, "You know what? I'm done with Jesus. I'm done with Jesus at all. Jesus and I just can't get along and everything. I'm praying straight to the Father and the Father only, because Jesus has to go tell God everything. So I'm gonna go tell God without Jesus." And I'm just sitting here looking at him like, "What did you just say? You can't go to the Father without going through Jesus. It doesn't work that way." And he's like, "Yeah, he does. I'm going to go straight to the Father. I'm going to pray through to Jesus, and I'm going to pray to the Father, and I don't need Jesus' help anymore. Do your own thing. Go ahead." I haven't seen that man since, by the way. It's like there are things when people come up to you and you just, and what they say, and I, how did you arise in such a condition of this? If ye had known me, Jesus said, now he's talking to Thomas here. If you had known me, ye should have known my Father also. And from henceforth ye know him and have seen him. Okay, verse 8. I'll go ahead and do this. Verse 8. Philip said unto him, "Show me the Father, and it's sufficient us." Okay, Jesus just told them about God and the Father, him and the Father. And then Philip looks at him and says, "Okay, show us the Father, and show us, so we can see him." And Jesus said unto him, "Have I not been so long time with you, and ye have not known me yet? Philip, have you not seen this for yourself? He that has seen me hath seen the Father. And how sayest thou then, show me us the Father?" To Jesus, there is no difference between him and the Father. Why? They're one. And when you go to the Hebrews, the Israelites over there in Israel, they cannot get this. They cannot get that God and Jesus are the same person, or the same being, or the same thing. That they think that they're different. God is God, and God is God, and then there's Jesus. The Bible teaches us there are three that bear record in heaven: the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And these three are one. You cannot take one without the other two. It's impossible to take one without the other two. We have a group of people going out, and they call them Jesus only people. And it's just Jesus. And the Father don't exist. The Holy Ghost don't exist. It's just Jesus. Jesus is all three of them. To a point, that is true. But how they're presenting it is not true, because these three are one collective God. He is put in three parts. Let's put it to you like this. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. These are the patriarchs. These are the patriots of the Old Testament. Why is it that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are connected together? Because they show us the Trinity form of the Father, of God Himself. Now notice, you had Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. What happened to Jacob? what happened with Jacob's kids? What happened was Jacob had 12 children, 12 male factor boys, 12 men, and these men became the pillars or the rocks or whatever of Israel. In Israel, you are connected to one of the 12. You are a descendant from one of the 12. Now, here I'm going to point this. Abraham had 2 sons at first. He had more than, after Sarah died, he had boys and girls after that. But he had Ishmael and he had Isaac. Ishmael, when he left the camp, being about 13 years old, God and Abraham had a talk. He said, okay, God, let my boy here, he's 13 years old, let him be the promise you've given me 13 years or so back. Let him be the descendant of that. And God said, no. God said, I am to be with, the covenant was made between me and you and Sarah. Not Hagar. But because he's your son, I will bless him and all that. Since you messed this up, Abraham. But my covenant is strictly with you and Sarah, and it's going to remain with you and Sarah. When I say, then you'll have the child, and the promised child. Until then. So Hagar and Ishmael was forced to leave the camp. They had no choice. But what happened to Ishmael is Ishmael had 12 children, and they became the 12 children of Ishmael, the Ishmaelites. And from there we have this big mass confusion here, the Muslims. From the Ishmaelites, from Ishmael you have his 12 children who are the Ishmaelites. And from there, they went out to conquer the world, which technically, in theory, they have. And they have descended from him. That's where you get Allah. That's where you get Muhammad. Muhammad was a descendant from the Ishmaelites. And through that, if you trace his lineage back, and he is the Messiah, more or less, of the Muslims. That's the reason why they put him on a high pedestal and loved naming their male factor names, children's names after him and all that. A little brief history. So going back to this, that Thomas, you can't help but show his colors, be a doubter. So we go here to John chapter 20. John chapter 20. Start at 24. But Thomas, one of the 12, called Didymus, was not with them when Jesus came. Now, when Jesus appeared and he told them peace, he came into the room, he said peace to him, he sat down and talked to him and all that. Thomas wasn't around. So Thomas turned around, and this is the record, he said. And the other disciples therefore said unto him, We have seen the Lord. But he said unto them, Except I shall see in his hands the print of the nails, and put my finger into the print of the nails, and thrust my hand into his side, I will not believe. it's funny how man operates. We say that seeing is believing. But the way Jesus tried to get the disciples to see, and Paul and the rest of them to see, is believing is seeing. You don't have to see something to believe it. Do you? Here, there is a difference between this world we live in and the spiritual world. The difference right now is the spiritual world is, in theory, blocked from us. Mankind, because mankind here, we can't see it because we're blind. We're deaf to it. We do not believe it exists for the most part. But where does the soul go when it dies then? Man has a soul, and when the soul leaves the body, it has to go somewhere. Where it goes is to the spiritual realm, the spiritual world. Now, it goes either to heaven or to hell. And here Thomas is just flat out just saying, you know what? Until I see Jesus for myself, until I see him face to face, until I feel his nail prints in his hands and feel that side, I'm not going to believe. Then it says here, then after 8 days, again his disciples were within, and Thomas with them. Then come Jesus, the doors being shut, and stood in the midst and said, peace unto you. So here Jesus, in his glorified body, walks through the door. Now, we're trained to think that when people do this, or when we see this, it is an apparition, it is a ghost, it is a phantom. But Jesus did this in his glorified body. He was in bodily form, defying the elements of earth. And he walks through the door. He doesn't open it. He walks through the door. And he looks at these guys and says, peace be unto you. Then said he to Thomas, Thomas, come here. And I always make this statement when I preach this message. And Peter sits there and says, thank God it's not me this time. Peter, he said, Thomas, come here. Reach hither thy finger, and behold my hands, and reach hither thy finger, and thrust it into my side, and be not faithless, but believing. How did Jesus know this? He told just the disciples this. Nobody else. How did Jesus know to do this? He knows everything. He knew the heart of Thomas. Now, in all of the Gospels, I find this next verse to be one of the most powerful verses in the Gospels of what is said here. It is so saturated in power, you just can't get over it, even if you tried. Now listen to the statement, listen to the testimony that Thomas makes here. And Thomas answered and said unto him, my Lord and my God. Notice that. He looks at him and says, my Lord and my God. The devoted life starts off with the morning devotions, when God comes and meet with Adam, And it was in the cool of the evening, and the evening and the morning was the first day. Where do you start your day with the Lord? Abraham, Genesis chapter 22, verse 3. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and he saddled his donkey, or his ass, and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac his son, and carried the wood for the burnt offerings, and rose up and went unto the place which God hath told him. Jacob, Genesis chapter 28, verses 16 through 18. And Jacob awake out of his sleep, and he went, and he said, Surely the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not. And he was afraid and said, How dreadful is this place! There is none other but the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. And Jacob rose up early in the morning, and took the stone which he had put for his pillow, and set it for a pillow, and poured oil on top of it, and poured oil upon the top of it. Now, Jacob's went to took a dream one night, and this is Jacob's dream. He's seen angels with the ladders going up a ladder, and angels going up and down the ladders and all that in this dream. But there's something about this stone that you need to understand. He slept upon this stone, and that is not the end of the stone's history. Do you realize that this stone has been gone through history, and it is a Irish and Scottish legend? This stone is for the kings that has rose up in these 2 nations. They've always found this rock and have sat on it before they were kings. In other words, they were anointed king before they were had their kingdom. And this is a legend. It is a truthful legend, more or less, when you look through the history of the rock, and you'll find this to be accurate. Solomon's parents. First Solomon chapter 1 through verse 19. And he rose up in the morning early, and worshipped before the Lord, and returned, and came to their house to Ramah and Elkanah, knew Hannah, his wife, and the Lord remembered her. Hannah wanted a son, and she prayed to the Lord. And the Lord gave her Solomon here, or Samuel. He gave him Samuel here. Hezekiah, 2 Chronicles chapter 29, verse 20. Then Hezekiah, the king, rose early and gathered the rulers of the city, and went up to the house of the Lord. Now notice, the king led the rulers of the city up to the house of the Lord. Do you find that today in our nation? Do you find the president or the vice president leading the Senate or the House up to the house of the Lord on a Sunday morning? Wow. Job chapter 1 verse 5. And it was so When the days of their feasting were gone about, that Job sent and sanctified them, and rose up early in the morning and offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, it may be that my sons have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. Thus did Job continually. And he did this in the mornings. David, Psalm chapter 57, verse 8. Awake up, my glory. Awake. Patiently and heart. I myself will awake early. Psalms 119, verse 147. I prevented the dawning of the morning and cried, I hope in thy word. And finally, Jesus. Mark 1:35. And in the morning, raising up a great while before day, he went out and departed into the solitary place, and there prayed. Now let's go. I'll close out with this, since it came to me and it's pretty well accurate here. Let's go to Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1. Now, after from Abraham down to Jesus, from what I've read, and then Thomas, his reports. Wherefore, seeing we are all compassed about with so great a cloud of witness, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which does so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us.